This is Principles of Passion. Principles of Passion. Chris Thomas.
Great moments are born from great opportunity.
I followed my passion.
I have a dream.
And Dominic Semina.
You better come to work.
This is it.
Perfection.
Oh, it's about to happen.
With guest CRISTAL GARCIA, data analyst at Advanced Group.
Just keep going. Find that thing you love. If you can find that thing that really gives you joy, that'll be it.
I read a quote by Ann Landers. She said, "Too many people today know the price of everything and the value of nothing."
Are you ready?
It's Principles of Passion.
Come on, sucker. Let's get it on.
Hey, yo, thank y'all for joining us. This is Principles of Passion. This is Chris Thomas. Got my co-host over there, Dominic Semino, and our special lovely guest, CRISTAL GARCIA.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know CRISTAL from the time I spent at Advanced Group. For those of you unfamiliar, they are a group of staffing firms. Advanced Resources was actually ranked number 10 on the Forbes list last year, I believe, in terms of top staffing firms. And me and CRISTAL, I think, just grew together psychologically. Like we were together on some diversity meetings and a couple other meetings, and I think we just grew our minds together, right?
Pretty much.
Us a little bit more.
It kind of started in the coffee room, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, just started off as a program associate, kind of picking people's brains. And yeah, Chris and I just connected. And next thing you know, I'm volunteering for Year Up.
Yeah.
Awesome organization.
Yeah.
And pretty much grew from there.
History from there, yeah. She's very passionate about finding out the rightness of something. But that doesn't always come easy, right? I think you have to start somewhere and then continually work to get better.
Yes.
Which is really what our episode is on today. And CRISTAL actually picked this title out, progression, right? And how do you progress even when you're at a low point, right? How do you progress even when you're at a high point too? And so we wanted to obviously, start a thought group on that and really determine what that means to you, to Dominic, to me, and most importantly, how we can share about what it means to us and help other people out there. You know, there's a lot of people that are going into positions right now that they feel stagnant. You know, they feel like, oh, I'm going to do this job, but I'm just doing it. Or I've been doing this job 5 years, and I'm just kind of doing it. How do you progress, right?
Yeah, well, no joke. Sometimes I feel like the search process is harder than, as soon as you figure out something, when that moment finally strikes you, to eventually get to your plan sometimes is a lot easier than you finding what it is that you want to do.
Yeah. I think the journey of determining what the vision is going to be is very tough. Because I think once you have that, and then you have a good network, you can kind of build around that. But until you have that vision, and that's hard. It's hard for people to really uncover what they're good at, turn that into what they're passionate about, and then turn that into what their vision is. So let's dive in a little bit. There's a good quote by our past president, Barack Obama. If you're walking down the right path and you're willing to keep walking, eventually you'll make progress. Right? Dom, what do you think about that quote? And Dom, I'm going to let y'all know, Dom was trucking. I was like, Dom, where you at? Dom's like, I'm in the building right now, Chris. Okay. So he may be a little winded, but Dom's always on time, and Dom is always calm, cool, and collective. So I appreciate that about him. So what do you think about that quote?
So hearing that quote, it's just it's kind of the basis of everything we've been talking about leading up to this episode. So I'd say going straight, you're going to eventually make progress. It makes sense because you could go in a bunch of different paths, but in those paths you're not going to make progress because they're all open. If you stick with one path and you stay dedicated to that one path, eventually eventually you're going to uncover a lot, not just on the path, but you might uncover some experiences along the way. You might figure something out within yourself that that triggers another event to follow, maybe a new passion, or to stimulate you to keep driving for that passion.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What do you think about the quote, Crystal?
Well, I guess one thing to also consider is also thinking about everything that helps you lead up to the path, which might not even be the path,
Right.
but eventually can, and how, you know, depends on how wide and how narrow that path is, how focused you want to get, but how it's okay to still going. But as soon as you make that decision, I guess it's the will to continue walking in that specific path is kind of what drives you. It's kind of hard to climb other people's mountains.
Right.
It isn't until you kind of start discovering things in yourself that you can finally start climbing your own.
Yeah, yeah. That's it, and it's very tough to, I feel, progress when you don't have a line of sight on what you're trying to get to. And I think that's the key, is really that vision and digging deep inside you, and like not going and making other people happy and what their vision is for you, right? And not having their thoughts be your thoughts, but making your own thoughts, right? And figuring out, okay, sure, no one's done this before, but they're my thoughts. It's what I want to do. Let me put that vision in place, and then I may fail, right? I may fall back 2 steps, but I'm going to progress through that, right? Through those failures and continue to get there until I get there, So, good. So to recap too, last week, and really just all 10 of the founding principles that we used, what would you say is the one that kind of stuck out to you most, Dom?
Me?
Yeah.
Wow, that's tough. I would say the one that stuck out to me the most, I would say, is the emotional awareness. Definitely say the emotional awareness, and I say that because you can't start anything if you're not in a stable place of mind. You need stability. You need to be able to understand. I wouldn't say control, because you can't really control how you feel all the time. So I would just say understanding your emotions really pays off in the long run, progressing, creating value, being elite, everything. I would say that would be the foundation and the basis.
All right. What do you think?
I would agree. And one of the main reasons why is because you said emotional awareness.
Yes.
It's not necessarily that you're not aware of your own emotions, but you don't really understand how much other social constructs affect your emotions, make you question what you're experiencing. You just probably feel a discomfort, but you brush it off sometimes, and then sometimes that forces you to blur your vision. So it's just to kind of, not only do you have to be aware of how you feel, but even your surroundings as well.
Let me ask you this, because I think that raises a very good point about awareness of yourself and what your weaknesses are. How much do insecurities play a part on that, and how those social constructs come into place?
Oh, with my own personal experiences,
Yeah, with you,
or
and
just
either
what I think
yours
about.
personally or what you've witnessed.
Well, there's this thing called stereotype threat, and sometimes I saw thinking in retrospect, I do feel like that played a part in me every now and then throughout my kind of academic and professional career.
Explain that, what you mean by stereotype threat.
So stereotype threat is a coined term that explains how, the stereotypes imposed upon your, for example, ethnic group, you might actually play to that because you start to believe that it's real. Like most women aren't really seen to be good mathematic performers, and so because you're so used to hearing that, you probably won't play to your true strengths.
That's interesting. That's what Laura was saying too, right?
Yeah.
We had Laura on, a software developer, and she's like, yeah, people wouldn't normally say that they should be good at software development, and she just grinded through the initial pieces of IT to get to that. So,
And then there's also stereotype boost, so if your particular ethnic group is known to be something, you might actually outperform or really take advantage of that and do better than the ethnic group that is known to have negative stereotypes
Sure.
that would actually perform.
sure, absolutely. So being that our show is on overcoming adversity as you follow your passion, would you say that data analytics is one of your passions, or what you're most passionate about, or what would you say?
I'm very passionate about higher education and employment, but I also really love math and now computer science. I'm kind of getting into it. I really, really liked math it was one of my favorite subjects when I was in high school, and I kind of disconnected myself from that because I came across something else when I was an undergrad called international relations, and it kind of exposed me to the narratives that consist of higher education and employment. And now I am kind of like coming full circle and revisiting math in my life because I will be pursuing a part-time data analytics study while still working full-time.
Good for you. Good for you. And so you're trying to bring all that together?
Yes.
Yeah?
It took some time to get there, but finally there.
Right. And in getting there, and I'm asking this because I think a lot of students really struggle in that getting there part and in defining that vision. Was there a point where you're like, okay, I remember why I like math. Like now I know why. Was there like a pivotal moment that you had that transfer of knowledge or that paradigm shift?
Yeah, I kind of started recognizing in the past roles that I've played that weren't kind of leading me towards my current career path. I started noticing that a lot of the analysis I would, which wasn't a primary part of my role, but that's what I really gravitated to. I'm just like, wow, I really do like creating, Excel docs and Word docs that are more kind of automated for people. Like, what does that do? Every single time I find a way that they're actually calculating things, I'm really interested in the nitty gritty, and I'm just like, maybe I should bring a little bit more kind of math related analytical thinking to my particular role.
Okay. And I remember us having some pretty in-depth conversations as you were going through that, and like really trying to stay true to that analytics piece, or at least how what you were doing could tie into the math. And those were hard conversations, I think, for you, and like tough mental shifts to like be like, no, I'm gonna keep doing it. Like I'm gonna keep going. Like it wasn't easy.
It wasn't, and you know what? I kind of had to start thinking about where all this kind of started, and it goes as far back as freshman year in high school. So I was ranked number 1, but you were anonymized, so you were a number. So, but everyone can see your number and everyone can see your performance. And in my particular algebra honors course, there is always like this very competitive friend of mine who would say, gosh, there's always this one person who is number 5, 6, whatever, I forgot my ID was at the time. He's like, who is he?
Yeah. Oh.
And my math teacher looked at me because she knew it was me, right? And I just stayed quiet. I kind of just hunched over and just kind of kept going. But it's just kind of funny how it kind of gets to you. So then, she saw me performing very well in math, and she invited me to be a part of a math team. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a math club. And it was honestly just kind of like taking tests, and I actually enjoyed it. And I taught myself how to solve 2 different types of variables at the same time. And that was a subject that we hadn't hit yet. So it got us, I went to Proviso East High School for my freshman year. We made it to like 3rd place. And then I go to another high school, the Illinois Math and Science Academy. And this is kind of where I start thinking the stereotypes starts coming in a little bit. Yeah, because there's 7% Latino at the time. And
was
7%, yeah. And I went from a predominantly 50% Latino, 50% Black, to a 7% Latino, 9% Black, and the rest was Asian and white. And I didn't feel like the same encouragement. You know, I felt kind of like I even had some teachers try to tell me, es fácil in Spanish, like the questions that I was asking to help clarify concepts was actually clear. So, you know, you kind of start thinking, you have to kind of think back about, you know, how you kind of were focusing on things, asking yourself why you started to let go of things, and then why. You know, because I didn't really know why, you know, and then I started thinking about that and how when I would ask questions about the math team in my new high school, and I didn't really feel like, you're great, you know, you should be a part of the team. It's kind of more like, this is what it's about, it's hard.
Right.
You know, and that kind of was
There's
like,
no encouragement.
I was like,
almost deterring you away from it. Yeah.
not deterring, but not encouraging me either, you know. And again, when I was in college, I went to Stanford. I took linear algebra and multivariable calculus freshman year, and I did well. But I decided to pursue international relations instead. And when I was a senior, I needed a signature from a dean, and he was the dean of engineering. And he goes, Crystal Garcia. He goes, why do I remember it? He goes, did you take linear algebra when you were a freshman? I was like, yeah. He's like, why don't you become an engineer? I'm like, you know, I came across this cool subject called international relations, he's like, yeah, but you would have been like a good product engineer, product designer. And I was like on the verge of graduating. He's like, would you like to stay for 4 more years? I'm like, no. So it's just like, you know, there wasn't someone plucking me off to ask me the right questions. And you start wondering why, what was going on. And then you start recognizing that, you know, the reasons why I left that or didn't decide to join it, you know, were things that, you know, I didn't have higher expectations of myself. And I also realized, you know, towards the end of my junior year in college that I had dyslexia with the help of a Spanish professor, believe it or not. And that kind of also played to it too. As, you know, sort of like people used to tell me, oh, you know, you're a good student, but you're not quite there, you know. And I think, you know, you start recognizing what type of learner you are. Once you start feeling more confident in how you approach stuff, I think that helps you look at the why a little bit different and move forward. So I, you know, first started working right out of college in education. Okay. And everyone kind of told me I needed to work from the ground up. So start off as an assistant, an executive assistant. But I started realizing that I was really interested in the operational aspect. Like, how can I make teachers' lives easy? How can I create like sort of planning easier for them? So I would develop these templates for them. And it really wasn't what an executive assistant is supposed to do. Right. And I didn't recognize that, you know, working from the ground up wasn't for me until I worked for another education nonprofit. And my analytical approach to things wasn't exactly what the CEO that I was supporting at the time. He's all like, I don't want you to analyze it. I just want you to schedule planning. And then that's when I recognized, I'm like, you know what? I am going to start searching for an analytical role. And I was a program associate for the Chicago Public Library Foundation. And I chose that particular route because it was kind of like the safe zone for me, but not really. So it gave me an opportunity to start focusing on a more analytical role. But I still had kind of like the experiential support in that I kind of did. But I started recognizing that the part that I liked the best was actually like automating a lot of the reports and how can I improve it. And then that's when I was just like, I'm sold. I'm like, I don't know why I was questioning myself. And believe it or not, you also have to find the right people who kind of push you. So Kyle Westbrook. I just decided to email him. He kind of just started a new nonprofit. His name is Kyle Westbrook.
Okay.
I kind of just decided to pick his brain, and he actually welcomed me. And he's all like, the next position that you get is not going to have an assistant title on it. And if you do, I'm going to stop talking to you. So it kind of was that next push to recognize, like, I'm applying for this data analyst role. I've been kind of networking to get there. I'm going to get it. And that pushed me to eventually get it. And I told him, I was like, you know what, I'm going to apply to University of Chicago's data analyst, at Masters of Science in Data Analytics. I'm going to get it. and I'm going to pursue it. And that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
buddy. That's awesome. That's a great story. And that's just a testament to like grinding through something, right? And like you said so many things in there of unsureness, but staying sure to you,
Yes.
right? And it seems like that whole time, even though there were these variables coming into play that you were a little unsure about, you still knew what drove you, what made you happy, what you liked, but weren't scared to try other things out there. But those still brought you back to where you not should have been in the beginning, but where your head was in the beginning.
And it's so hard to listen to yourself when. So I also have a master's in comparative and international education from the University of Oxford, and you know,
She's smart, people.
having
She's smart.
having those degrees, used to always like I used to hear a lot of criticism from people closest to me, like I can't believe you're an executive assistant, with those 2 degrees, like what's going on, and part of it is because you are trying to listen to yourself, but you can't just really hear it. Now, when people question and they tell me those things, I'm just like, you know, I money isn't everything. I want to find something that's good for me, and I know everything else will fall in place. It's just hard because people are well intentioned when they're doing that, but at the same time they don't know what's right for you.
Right. Right. That's good. I love. I don't think even in all the times we talked, I don't think I heard that whole story. So that's good.
It's because I was in the process of figuring it out.
And you still are,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But you are doing just that. You're figuring out what your passion is, and like that's what this is about. Like finding, defining, and following it. Right? There's 3 steps to it, and like you're going through all of them. So I commend you.
Thank
I
you.
do
Thank
commend you
you.
for that. That's awesome.
But the finding and defining, it's crazy how much things just snapped into place when you're just like
You're following your passion.
analytics. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're just like, this brings my strengths with my passions. Data science is a relatively new field, so I think even if I was an undergrad, it would have been hard to define.
Sure.
But now it just feels so right. Like no one can shake you.
That's how I feel. I'm sure that's how Dom
Yeah.
feels too.
Every day.
You guys are getting there. I think Anna's almost there with her project management. What do you think, Kush? You almost there? Getting there? Yeah, both of you. Yeah, but that passion though, have you found it yet? You still looking for it? Yeah, talk right into the mic. Mic 2, check. Mic 2, check.
I still feel like I have like 1 more year left, and then like just wait and reaching for all the opportunities that are still like given and thrown at you by all these different companies and people. But I feel like you just need to know like the right people to like get to go you where you need to go.
Yeah.
Like if you're just doing it all on your own, like it's definitely going to be much more harder than it would be to like have a connection.
Yeah. It's about networking. It's you can progress through life. Crystal said it earlier though. If your path is aligned, you're not going to network with all these people, right? And that's not bad to meet all types of different people. This is your lane. These are the people you should meet. And if you're aligned with this vision and you're in this lane, soak all of this up, right? But people, sometimes the vision might be here. And I'm not saying you can have different passions and different priorities, right? But your vision, what the prize is set on, you got to stay in your lane.
But sometimes it's the unlikeliest of individuals who kind of expose you to the first opportunity.
You are right.
And that's exactly what happened. So when I was in the last executive assistant position that I received, I wasn't too happy. It was just a different type of pressure, and it felt so not like me. I had a coworker who's all like, "This opened up, take it," and it's just someone who is in a completely different field.
Right.
And if I didn't listen to her and look into it, I probably would have taken me a little bit longer if I didn't leave that particular position.
Yeah. And I think to that point, you always listen people at the bottom to the top. The lane needs to stay straight.
Exactly.
But no matter who, if you're talking to the janitor or you're talking to the president, you should take in all of their information equally the same, because this person's going to see stuff differently than them. Maybe better, maybe worse, but it's different. You're getting different points of views on the same situation.
And most important, support. You know, sometimes people see you a little bit lost, and some people are trying to encourage you in negative ways, and you have that person who, you know, just might be a chef, and he just tells you the right things that you need to keep walking forward.
Yeah, that support system. That's hard too. I think it's hard when you're not comfortable with yourself, and I know I struggled with that for a lot of my life. Just getting confident, getting comfortable. I feel like I let my lack of security shine through in overcompensation and a little bit of an egotistical way. And I think I still struggle with it a little bit, but I think when you look at a support system, a supporter is never going to tell you you can't do something. Ever, 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 ever. And if there's someone that's telling you right now that you can't do something today, that is not your support system. I don't care if it's your mom, your dad, your brother, your girlfriend, your wife. If they're telling you you can't do something, then that's not your support system.
Or even if they're not telling you that you can't do something, they're trying to fit you in a box.
In their box. In their box, not your box.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the definitions of progression that stuck out to me, and I think I looked up like 5 of them, but I'm going to say 2 of them, and then I want you guys to kind of tell me what you think about it. The process of developing or moving gradually towards a more advanced state. What word sticks out most to you in that sentence? I'll say it again. The process of developing or moving gradually towards a more advanced state. Or what phrase?
I think the word developing. Yeah, because it may not feel advanced if you keep stepping towards somewhere. You know, I think that's the first thing to do. Whether that's, you know, listening to your own thoughts, or even developing is also you blocking people out.
Getting better at developing your core skin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Dom?
Gradually. Gradually is definitely the word that stuck out to me. I guess it resonated with me so much just because I'm at a place where I'm very happy. I choose to be happy. And it's like I know what I want, and I want so much, but excuse me. But it all comes in time. You can't rush everything. You have to. It's acquired when it's meant to be had by you. And if you have everything now, you're not going to know how to use it. You're just going to have a cluster of everything. That's why when I say gradually really stuck out to me, it's like everything comes when it's meant to. And like the quote by Barack, you just walk in that straight line. Eventually, you'll make progress. And it's just gradual. It's all gradual, and it kind of goes back to a saying I do for myself. It's just life in increments. You know what you want to take care of in a day, a year, 5 years, but you can't take care of it all at once. It comes in increments, life in increments.
Oh my Lord, though,
Gradually.
you make a great point. Happiness is a choice.
Yeah,
And you
I
don't
choose
start,
to be happy. I like
you don't recognize that until you start familiarizing yourself with your own agency.
what your
I can
why
understand
is,
that.
where you're getting that happiness from. Is that what you mean by agency?
Or the amount of like power you have over yourself, your own decisions, your own subjectiveness, you know, your own objectification of other things too. When you start recognizing that you're, you know, people can put you down, but it isn't until you finally make the decision to be, I'm gonna keep moving forward, or
Yep.
you know what type of doors to open now.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna go for those doors. You're gonna be confident in walking those doors, even though they may not be the right door. You know, but you recognize your own agency, because if it isn't the right door, you're gonna walk through another one.
Exactly.
And that's kind of how happiness is a choice.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's funny. I actually had a conversation, not exactly the same, but it was along the same lines. It was like you said, they're trying to put you in their box, but you have your own mission. Um, it was like a crude analogy, but it was um, like a shirt, for example. You might like the shirt you have on, and someone can say, "I don't like that shirt." Does it really matter? You're wearing it, and that's just how I kind of look at things. It's like it's your life, it's your shirt. You're the one wearing it. If you're happy with the way it's going, then why are you worried?
And if you got a shirt with a bacon collar, then you should have thought about that before you walked out of the house.
I'll be taking 3 minutes off my
Trying to
life just
look
wearing
good,
it.
you know? No, that's it, man. It's about how you feel, right? Not about what other people are going to say. And then not just how you feel right now, because I think a lot of people act on emotion right now in the moment. It's take a step back, be patient, let the emotion subside, and then get to something better. Progress to something better than where you are right now.
Sometimes I don't think it's about letting your emotions subside, because I think it's more like focusing on why you feel that way. That's also equally as important.
Understanding.
Fair enough.
Yeah, understanding it, because there's a reason why, like sometimes I felt belittled by teachers, and they probably were well intentioned, but if I didn't try thinking about why, I wouldn't have known what type of learner I was, what I was looking for. I'm all like, he's just not listening to me. What am I asking for? Why am I so upset? Because he's not listening. So what type of learner am I? I'm more of a conceptual learner. I have to get a bird's eye view, not a worm's eye view. That's just me.
No, that gave me goose. That's spot on. Yeah, no. I don't think I ever thought of it that way. And I always try and think of the why, but I think, and it's funny, I was listening to a Jocko podcast about taking responsibility even when it's not your fault. And he speaks a lot about that, about to the why, and not just the why. And my friend Morgan Field speaks about this a lot, but responsibility for what you can control in a situation, right? Because things can happen and you can act on emotion. And my point in subsiding, better word, controlling, but why am I feeling this? And then how do I take control over that feeling? And what's going to happen based on my reaction from that feeling, right? Taking full responsibility of how you're feeling about something, what insecurities are making you feel that way, and then how do you have a better reaction? How do you progress through how you may have reacted from it last time? Good. Thank you for that one. I love it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to use that. The agency, aligning with the agency. That was a nice way to put it.
Yeah, for sure. So Shirley Chisholm, she was a politician, an educator, and author, and she was the first black woman elected to Congress. She said, "You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas." I love this because of where we are and the state of mind of your passion first, of principles of passion, and what it makes me think about is all of the critics. That's what critics are there for, to talk. And I appreciate that. I appreciate when people tell me what I can do to make something better. What I'm very unappreciative of is when people just say things to say things with no solution involved, with no just coming to terms.
I also feel like when it comes to criticism, there's a difference between like attacking the idea versus the person.
True.
And so I think when when you should listen to other viewpoints. I feel you should. Because they might have something that makes your point stronger and they don't even recognize it.
Absolutely.
And how can you share that in a way that they might be able to relate, because they give you more information about themselves? But it's not until they start attacking you as an individual that you recognize that they're not listening.
And I even listen to those. And Gary Vee says, fuck them all, don't listen to anybody. I listen to those because I try and find truth in it. If someone's telling me something about what I'm doing, I have to be confident enough in myself, first of all, to know what my mission and vision is. But I also have to be able to filter truth from fallacy. And so when I hear things, the first thing I always ask myself is, man, maybe they're right. What can I do to make what they said better? What can I do to take onus over it?
Can you give an example of that? Because
Absolutely.
what I'm
Someone
thinking
said
about is like
today-
if someone calls you dumb, you know, that's
So-
I don't know how I can internalize that.
So here's how I'll tell you. So I'll give you an example, and then I'll tell you how I would internalize that. Someone today told me, I saw your podcast. You're real cocky. Maybe I am. My man Ernie said I should be cocky. It's a radio show, right? So I'm supposed to be. Who's gonna come and listen to someone that? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I think you should do that. Yeah.
Late night radio.
Right? Who's gonna come and listen to that?
I'm just kidding.
Right? So it's funny, the person that said I was cocky doesn't have a lot going for them right now, right? So I took that though as well, as I did when I got a comment about potentially maybe Don should take over the show, right? I took that to me, okay, Chris, maybe you should tone it down and give a little more direction to other people in the show. My man Ernie, go ahead, Ernie.
Real quick, you were talking about cocky
Yeah.
and how and nobody that man is listening to your show.
Or female.
Or whoever
Right.
called you cocky and said they dislike.
She was listening.
They're
They were
listening to the show
Yeah.
to see if you're cocky. Now that's what people forget is even if they hate you, they're listening to you.
Yeah.
And they continue to come back and listen to you, so they actually like you.
My
Ernie
man.
out.
That's why he's the executive producer.
I would have asked him a question, be like, "What define cocky?" Because if he says too confident,
So I think it was in a heat of the moment type conversation.
yeah,
I also know where people that know me can think that I'm cocky because I am, right? Where I try and balance it is by backing it up, right? So anybody that knows me knows that I'm a man of my word, and if I say something, I'm going to do it, right? It may take me a little longer, it may take me a little faster, right? But I'm going to do it. And I think that's one thing I try and pride myself on. And that, like, I haven't always been like that. I've never been I have friends that are flaky. I've never been that. But I've struggled with trying to make sure that I'm saying I'm going to do what I say and doing what I say and not spreading myself too thin. Because I think we can want to take on too much by being helpers. I'll pause. I'll let you guys say anything you want.
I feel like confidence is an admirable trait, and not everyone has it because we're so used to subduing other people. You know, so why should we keep pushing someone down? So that's kind of what I mean by like an attack on your personal character. And so sometimes I think what I would like to know is like, well, what was it about what I said? Well, what idea makes you think that I am the arrogant version of confidence and not necessarily like truly aware of what I'm saying and actually stand behind by what I say?
I think you keep making a common theme of digging deeper
Yeah.
to the why behind what someone's saying or what we're thinking or what emotion is being in.
Because I think like a comment like cocky can make some people kind of step back, you know, like for a very long time I didn't like telling people what type of the institutions that I went to, because that changed the expectations. Sometimes it just automatically labeled me arrogant, as in like I can't talk to you anymore. I'm like, well, that's not how it was when I first started talking to you.
Right.
You know, or, you know, unrealistic expectations. Like, would you expect this of someone who didn't come from this background with the same exact role and the same exact expectations? So that's kind of what I meant. Like, I find confidence an admirable trait. And I know you just provided an example, but I think it's a great example because I'm now starting to actually own up to those institutions, those names. Because I feel like
You earned it.
I worked hard for them.
earned
Yeah,
it, yeah.
I worked hard for them. They may not have been the specific, the best opportunities for me, because I feel like, just discovering that I had a learning disability. I don't even know if I should call it a learning disability. I just learned differently. I didn't get their full support. Stanford said, your issue is that you're a native Spanish speaker. We're not going to pay for that expensive test. They didn't say it exactly in those terms, but that's how I heard it.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually had to go to an outside institution with the assistance of my professor, who wasn't someone who diagnoses people, but she's all like, "Your writing, I kind of know what you're talking about. I see the things that people were telling you."
Yeah.
My sister, she's a psychologist. She can test you. I had to search for a scholarship to get tested. So even though those institutions didn't support me in the way that I needed, I I still went through it. I still worked hard, and those names
Harder
are
than
mine.
most, right? Harder.
Yeah.
To try and fight for
Arguably,
what your
I can't
right
I
was.
can't say that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I feel like I'm getting to know you more. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing all that. I
But
appreciate
that's kind of what I mean by like confidence is important. I don't think people should like try to downplay someone, who has confidence, admire it.
it. Thank you. Thank you. As my son would do.
Yeah.
So what we will do is I'm going to go through just a few. So the article is actually called "Make Progress in Your Life," and it was an article from WikiHow. I found like 5 different ones. This one was the best one I found. So I'm just going to say a couple phrases, and I want you guys to tell me what comes to mind. I'm just going to point fingers. I may point at you two. Okay. Keeping in mind that the goal of the show is to inspire and be inspired. For those of you that are just tuning in on Facebook, we appreciate it as always. We want to be an industry leader in career readiness festivals. A lot of stuff going on in the background. I did have a good interview with a potential COO. So we're going to be talking tomorrow. I have our logos in illustration right now. I have a meeting on tomorrow with the website designer. So slowly but surely, I promise we're getting there. It's about progress, right?
Yeah.
Week by week, day by day, brick by brick, we're trying to build a house. So, progress. First phrase. Take responsibility for your actions. Go.
You have to be able to own up, and sometimes it's not necessarily saying sorry. In most cases, it's more so understanding an issue you may have caused or something that may have been your fault, and just owning up to it. You can't learn if you deny taking responsibility for something, because it'll get passed off to someone else. That's fine. The issue will get resolved, but you will not grow.
You won't resolve the
No,
you that
exactly.
messed up the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Identify sources of insecurity. I love this one. Kush. No? Skip? All right. Hey, interns, get used to it. Hey, hot mic. Crystal.
I think that's a fantastic one, because if you don't look yourself in the mirror, you don't see the things that you need to work on. If I didn't recognize that I needed to build confidence, I needed to feel more comfortable telling people where I went, progression probably might be slower.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's what holds. I think people are held up by 2 things: insecurities and evil. Either you're not doing the right thing, or something makes you think you're not doing the right thing. And I think uncovering both of those, we should all be trying to do the right thing on the right path. Sometimes is it the right thing for you, and is that aligned with your vision? But then there's the flip side of, I didn't get treated the right way as a kid, or in my case, I grew up in an interracial family, and people call me white and I didn't know how to, it could be anything, right? At the end of the day, you have control over that.
Agency.
Right. Your agency. Yes. Learning new stuff today, people. Good. Formulate tangible goals. Anna?
So formulating tangible goals, I think that's really important, especially for me because I like to set really high expectations for myself, and sometimes I don't even accomplish what I want to accomplish. So just realizing and being self-aware that if you can't accomplish something, then that's fine, but accomplish what's most important, prioritizing.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dom always says incremental, right?
Yep.
Take
Life in increments.
5%
Like the
a
sun.
day.
I've been watching the sun in increments.
5% a day, right? Just little pieces at a time. Attainable goals, things that, that are stretched, but that you still feel you can attain. And there's adjustment periods there. You're not always going to be like, oh, I hit it right on the head. You may fall short. You may do a little bit more, but then you reset and you say, okay, next week, boom, now I know what I got to do. Now here's my barrier or my marker. Let me try and get to this level. But I really like this one. Have a passion for endeavor. I'll leave it open to whoever wants to add to that. Have a passion for endeavor. I'll add. Life is a journey, right? And if you are looking for something to get to that point and just be happy there, then you're not going to be happy, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of people out there that are searching for something that might not be there. So I'm not saying don't stop searching, but I'm also saying don't let yourself be cut short by your own limitations. Always be trying to get better, trying to progress, trying to look for new environments, new people, new ways of making yourself better, making your environment better, making your community better, making your workplace better. Those are all endeavors. And so I think if we can all try and use those as we focus that vision, right? Because the vision is the final endeavor. That's where, and that changes once you get there. You set another endeavor. Be happy in the moment, though, right? Because right now is right now, and you can never get that back. But I think continue to progress.
When I hear the word endeavor, I think about the word tenacity. And the first time I heard it, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was learning Excel for the first time. And my teacher, gave us he gave us a worksheet, and I was looking at it. I was like, I know how to do this. I know how to do it. And he was about to come over and help me. I'm like, no. Let me work on this. I think I know how to get there. And then he whispered, tenacity, tenacious. And I didn't know what that was. So I looked it up. And I was like, yeah, that is me. I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I can work hard. And working hard, doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have the capacity to do it eventually, that you might do things longer, but you learn.
Yeah.
And that's most important. So to endure means to learn.
And to deal with the pain, right? Because you're enduring something that may not taste that sweet right there, but you're constantly putting knowledge into your brain. So yeah, I love that. Here's a tough one, and this is kind of to my point of taking criticism constructively. Reframe negativity.
I got it.
Go ahead.
So to go back to what you were saying about how people just say things sometimes, the way I look at that, and you could take that as refraining negativity, is I look at that as a test for myself. Because obviously, to me, I know those words were just meant to get at me. They were hollow. But it's how I reacted. It was a test for me to see where I'm at. If I was okay, if that really was true, the criticism I received, if it was true, what I can work on. And if it wasn't, well, at least I didn't get mad at this. I understood what they were saying, and I was able to take that, and it helped me progress.
Yeah, yeah. Take it with a grain of salt, but also take it as a boulder if
Yeah.
it's true. You know, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself, I think, to do that. And I think it's something I know I'm working on, is just the raw truth of who I am, you know. I think we all struggle with that a little bit, though, and I think that's a life lesson, because as you're putting yourself in new situations, you're uncovering new truths about yourself, I think, every day. So, awesome. This one's interesting. Work on decreasing perfectionism. Work on decreasing perfectionism.
I can say something towards
Sure.
that. I often feel like people forget that we're human. And sometimes we just start to set unrealistic expectations. And sometimes there's a lot of beauty behind imperfections. And just being cognizant, I think you end up spending too much time not focusing on yourself and developing this kind of person that really isn't you. You know,
When you look for this magical figure, you're like,
yeah,
how can I do all that? And maybe I think people can strive to be their best, but like, what is that vision of best? And like, what is perfection? Is it an unrealistic goal?
well, I kind of like to think of it in art terms too. So, one of my biggest hobbies is painting. I love painting, right? And I think if people spent too much time focusing on realism, we wouldn't have discovered Picasso or Jackson Pollock and just other people's aesthetics, because we're too busy trying to get every single angle right in the face, you know. And Frida Kahlo, you know, just her recognizing that she herself was her own best subject and being brutally honest and painting that mustache and that unibrow, you know what I'm saying, and her broken back, you know, a lot of people would say that she's imperfect, but to herself, she was perfection. So maybe perfection is striving for you genuinely. But if you're striving for other people's perfection, that's where you start to complicate stuff for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. We all want progress. But if you're on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn and walking back to the right road. In that case, the man who turns back soonest is the most progressive. That's an awesome quote by C.S. Lewis. And I think it speaks a lot to the demographic that we're trying to speak to. And I say that because when you look at some of the more disparate neighborhoods in the city of Chicago, they don't have the resources that we do here in downtown Chicago and in a lot of the suburbs. And so they don't even know what the right road to go down is yet, because they haven't seen it yet. And so a lot of them are going down the wrong road. And so what I say to those students out there and those folks that may be going down the wrong road, or that may be going down a right road turn wrong, follow what your heart is about.
Or what if they feel that's the only road that they have?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the wrong road, but you feel limited. And, you know, agency is you recognizing that you're not a victim, but you are aware, because victimization is recognizing the things that are affecting you and not doing anything about it. But I think agency is recognizing the things that people are doing to you and doing something about it.
Say that again.
So victimization is recognizing the things that people are doing to you, because there are hegemonic forces out there, strong forces that have total influence, that the way that they create policies and all this stuff is intended so that you don't progress. And victimization is you letting that get to you, not doing anything about it, not recognizing that you have more options. Agency is being cognizant of that, of those forces, and doing something against it. So just the awareness, the step towards doing something, when you start to realize that you have more options than you were actually told.
Taking action.
It's like, so believe it or not, I didn't know much about Stanford. My friend brought it up to me. He's all like, hey, have you ever heard of Stanford? I was like, no, what is that? You know, and he's like, oh, it's a school in California. You should check it out. So I started reading on it, but I still didn't understand the rankings, I guess you can say. And so I wanted to be familiar more with what it entailed, and I met up with a counselor. He wasn't my counselor, but he was like the popular counselor. He's like, honey, what's your GPA? So it's a 3.4. Oh, you have no chances of getting in. And I think victimization is like believing it, you know, starting to perform towards that stereotype threat and not doing anything. I didn't know what Stanford was, but I wanted it enough to prove him wrong.
Yeah.
So I applied, and, you know, I applied to a bunch of schools, but that was the one application that I worked the hardest on. And I still didn't know what caliber Stanford was in until, you know, someone asked me, he's like, oh, what schools are you debating between? I'm like, oh, you know, because I was at Stanford. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm thinking about actually going to UIC. And UIC is a fantastic institution.
Sure.
It really is.
It's not Stanford.
It's not in the same rankings, but I think personally, based on the things that I've read, it has some departments better than Stanford.
Sure.
And my friend at the time told me, he's all like, are you serious? I've never even heard of UIC. I'm pretty sure it's a good school, you know, but I've never heard of it. And this is it's ranked 4. And then at the time it was 4. And I was just like, 4? In what? And he's all like, in the world. I was like, what? And then, you know, I didn't even know, but I wanted it enough. And if I didn't, I wanted enough to prove this person wrong. And agency is working hard at that application and proving them wrong and recognizing that you do have more options than the ones that people are trying to limit you to.
Awesome.
Victimization is saying that maybe you're right. Maybe that isn't my institution for me.
That's good. And you know what? I'll kind of sum it up with that, because I think that's a good point to end on, given that we're really trying to focus on progression here on the show, but in life, in politics right now, progressing past a lot of the negative portrayals that the media is making on our society. And I think what we have to look at is, to your point, we can be victims, right? And look around and say, oh, help me, right? Or we can look around and we can take massive action against things that we feel are wrong. If you see someone doing something wrong, speak up about it. Don't turn an eye, don't turn a cheek, say something. All right? And I think that's what makes the world a better place. Stop worrying about what other people are thinking. Worry about what you think about you, and worry about what the closest people to you that are your support system, not people close to you that are telling you you can't do things. Keep those people close to you. The people that are saying, yeah, go do that. Hey, why don't you try and do it this way? Right? I know that hasn't been working for. Try this. Keep that support system close to you. Dig out any insecurities you have. Stop playing the victim.
People want you to feel the victim. They want you not to do anything about it. And you know what? You probably are for a split second, but you don't start recognizing your agency until you start stepping out of that zone.
That's it. Well, listen, thank y'all for joining us, Crystal. It's been a pleasure. I thought I knew you. I know you more now.
Thank you for having me.
And just honest. I think it's hard to talk through challenges we face, but it shouldn't be. And so I appreciate just your honesty, and I hope some folks out there were able to hear your story, and hopefully it taught them something. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
For everyone Facebook, we appreciate y'all tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Have a good night.
Remember, if you don't put your passion first, it's hard to follow your dreams. Holla back.